background, I had a friend staying with me over the weekend, and honestly, it's way more comfortable like this. I've left it there so I can watch my SVU marathons in a nice little cozy bed. There's a bus. But anyways, hey y'all, I'm back and I have more scary stories. These are like, I guess, kind of scary, but also like amazing. Nar, please don't move my tripod. Nar. This says, people are revealing how listening to their intuition saved their lives, and it is bone chilling. I read the first 3 and they are insane, so we're just gonna get into it. I went to Woodstock in '99, bought a group package deal that included transportation and a special campsite. I stepped off the bus, took approximately 8 steps from the bus to the gate. We stepped through a literal hole in the gate to enter, and the moment my foot hit the ground, I had a massive anxiety attack. I tried to get settled at our campsite and walked around a bit. The anxiety never left me. I asked if there was transportation out of there since the bus I arrived on wasn't leaving until the festival ended. Luckily, there was a bus that left for the local Walmart every half hour. I left the next morning on the first bus out. As soon as I left through the gate, my anxiety disappeared. My mom drove the 6 hours to come get me. On the way home, we heard about the riots and the fire. I'm sure I would have died or gotten severely injured if I didn't leave. This next one freaks me out because I know someone who went through something so similar. My adult daughter woke up one night around 2 a.m. because she felt her husband kicking her. She sat up to confront him, and after she said something to him, he just grunted and tried to go back to sleep. She felt something was off because he didn't respond, only grunted. She kept him awake and knew that something was really wrong. He couldn't talk or stand on his own. She woke up her 2 daughters and had them help him get to the car. She took him to the hospital, and he was admitted right away. The doctors found he had a brain bleed and very well could have died if he had gone back to sleep or even waited for an ambulance. That shit scares me so bad because it's like, how? Like, he was just asleep. It could happen to fucking anybody. Oh my god. I was planning to visit my family in Indonesia for the, I'm not going to say this correctly, Eid al-Fitr, I'm sorry, and found some reasonably priced flight tickets online. I was about to make the payment, then felt something telling me not to, so I canceled it. A few months later, this is fucking insane. Malaysia Airlines Flight 17 was shot down while flying over Ukraine. That was the flight I had canceled. The way oh my god, it's like, dude, intuition is nuts. Okay, number 4, it happened after a play rehearsal as I was leaving my high school. There was a small hill to the left of the red light. While I was waiting for the light to turn green, a conversation I had with my father popped into my head. It was a story he told me when I was younger for when I learned to drive. He told me how when he was 17, a car ran the light at 100 miles per hour. Looking before going saved my dad's life. When the light I was waiting for turned green, my gut told me, look left. Suddenly, a car appeared over the hill and sped through the red light at no less than 80 miles per hour. If I had pulled forward, that car would have smashed into my driver's side. Fuck, there was a light, dude. One of my childhood homes, because we had a couple, one of my main childhood homes, the light to get out of it, because it was like a light and then it was like you drove a little bit, then it was the neighborhood. The light to get anywhere out of that area was so bad because nobody wanted to wait. And it almost like if you were going straight or turning left, whatever, that light almost never turned green because it was like rarely used. Only really the people in the neighborhood, and the neighborhood had like 10 houses. No one really used that light. But the other light was on, like going the other way, was on a very busy road. And so when that light would eventually turn red, no one wanted to stop because it was almost never red. It was like inconveniencing them, which is weird because our light would be green for like 10 seconds. People would speed through that shit. It could be like red for so long and people would still be going through it. It was so scary to turn left or go straight. That shit scares me so bad because I learned living at that house, I always had to check because people just wouldn't stop. Next one. I used to exercise obsessively. If I wasn't exercising, I was failing at life. It was destroying my brain. So one night, I decided to just stop by the side of the road and enjoy the breeze on my face instead of immediately continuing my run. Just for a second. I fought the feelings of guilt from not moving and closed my eyes and breathed. Suddenly, a pickup with no lights on came screeching around the corner, across the pavement into the parking lot behind me, did a donut, and then took off the way it came. The side view mirror was so close to my face at one point that I could feel the whoosh of it. If I hadn't taken that 1 second to just exist and enjoy the breeze on my face, I would be dead, and so would my dog who was waiting for me. Nora's run up against me, needs attention right now, but number 6. When I was a kid in rural California, I was playing outside with my dog. He was walking by my side and ran a few steps to the side, acting playful like he wanted me to follow him. I had a feeling I should. After taking a few steps toward him, I saw movement out of the corner of my eye. There was a baby rattlesnake right where I would have stepped if I hadn't followed my dog. He may have saved my life. What the fuck? Nar, stop moving my tripod. I randomly woke up in the middle of the night one night, completely panicked about buying a carbon monoxide detector. I'm gonna hate this. We had just moved into a new home, but I had no idea if our smoke detectors had them or not. I bought a plug-in carbon monoxide detector the next day for my own peace of mind. A few weeks later, it went off in the middle of the day. I opened a few windows, took the kids outside, and called the fire department. They sent a fire truck. They discovered high levels of carbon monoxide in the house. We found out it was from a faulty water heater located right by my kids' playroom in the basement, and the levels were high enough that it set off the detector on the second floor. I could have sent my kids down there to play and had no idea. I can't remember if I told this story. I think I tried to tell this story, but then I was like, did this actually happen? Because sometimes I get like reality mixed up. But then I saw one of my other friends talk about it on Twitter recently, and I was like, okay, so I'm not making this up. We went on a trip with all of our friends when we used to do like the conventions, when I had that whole like internet friend group. We went on a trip to Colorado, and the house that my friends were staying in, because me and my other friend were staying in a hotel like down the street, but the rest of them were all staying in this Airbnb. The carbon monoxide alarm went off one night. They all woke up. I can't remember exactly what happened, but like it was like bad. Like they could have died. If they would have kept sleeping, they would have died. I can't remember all the details to it because it was a very long time ago and I wasn't even staying at the house. I remember getting there the next morning and they were telling us what had happened, and they were like, yeah, if we would have like not called anyone, we would be dead right now. And I'm like, that's like such a horrifying thought. Can you imagine us getting there and everyone's just dead? Okay, I was pregnant with my now daughter and I was getting in the left turning lane in my car. Another car abruptly cut me off to get in front. Normally I'd be a little more aggressive, but I felt like I should just let it go. We were at the red light and a car turning left in the opposite direction slammed into the car in front of me that cut me off. It could have been the car me and my unborn baby were in. Sometimes it pays to be patient. I think that all the time. When I'm driving, if people are doing stupid shit, I'm like, you do your stupid shit, no, I'm not involved. Also, road rage is really scary, especially in Arizona right now, dude. People are getting killed. There was like an 18-year-old girl killed recently in Arizona because of some guy's fucking road rage. That shit's insane. It's so scary. My friends and I were planning to go to the ghost ship party in Oakland that burned down. We were right outside and we all just didn't feel like going in. So at the last minute, I made the call for us to go home. I woke up to the news of the fire. Wait, I thought it was like a place that had already burned down, but no, it would have burned down that night. In February, my dad went into the hospital after he fell one morning. In the emergency room, they discussed a possible stroke, but he wasn't showing symptoms and they even tested him for it. Since he fell and they couldn't lower his blood pressure, they kept him overnight. For some reason, I wanted to stay. I don't know why. I said I would sit with him as long as it was allowed. He finally fell asleep around midnight and I dozed off shortly after 3 a.m. In my dream, I heard my dad calling me by my full name, not my nickname he normally calls me. I jolted awake out of the chair and asked if he was okay. He said he felt funny and couldn't move his left hand and that he didn't want to bother a nurse. I ran out to grab a nurse. My dad had suffered a stroke right there in the hospital that night. And since my dad received a bed in the staff changeover, someone forgot to place the heart monitor on him. If I wasn't there, the staff would have caught the stroke much later. Oh, like what is happening? I left work later than normal one day. It was a particularly stressful day, and on those days, I sometimes take the long way around the building to decompress instead of taking the shortest route to my car. I was standing at the elevator to take the nice stroll around the building, but I changed my mind for some reason and went the quicker route. As I was crossing the street to my car, I heard 2 loud bangs. There was gunfire in the parking lot I would have walked through if I had gotten on the elevator. Whatever pulled me in a different direction that day clearly did not want me involved. Okay, number 12. My neighbor worked in investment years ago, and it took him all over the country to large businesses. He was supposed to meet with a company on September 11th, 2001, and they were located in one of the Twin Towers. My neighbor felt something was off, and he recently had twins, so he opted out of the business trip to stay home with his wife and newborn twins. If he had gone, he would have been in one of those towers that day. He says it still haunts him to this day. These stories are absolutely I can't handle this. I've said it like 20 times. These are nuts. These are crazy. These are insane. But like, intuition is so... I took the train to work every day. Same train in the morning and same train in the evening for years. One night I had a really tough time sleeping and was really tired at work. I felt so anxious to get home, so I took the earlier train. The train I usually took derailed that night. Multiple people died. I was home with my wife, but she couldn't stop crying because I was normally on that train. Once, I was texting and driving as a young person. I know, it's not okay. But I got a weird feeling like my brother, who was no longer alive, was telling me to look up. So I did. I thought the semi-truck in front of me was turning left, but the driver swung left to turn right. If I hadn't looked up when I did, I would have driven right under the semi-truck and died. I will not touch my fucking phone while I drive. I am so scared of that. I hate when people text with me in the car. I think it's so terrible because it's like, do that on your own fucking time. It's still terrible regardless, but like, I am in the car with you. You're not the only person at risk. Like, I am right here. If someone's texting with me in the car, I'm like, put it down, bitch. It's just not worth it. You can wait 2 seconds or pull over if it is that important. Anyways, my 16-year-old daughter went longboarding one morning without me. She convinced me she was old enough to go alone, so I went to the store. Then I got this feeling that I should call her. She didn't answer when I did. I tried several times. My gut told me to go home immediately. I kept calling her until there was an answer. It was a stranger. There was an accident. My daughter was crying and barely coherent. She couldn't even tell me where she was. The person with her called an ambulance and directed me where to go. I was already on my way. My daughter was so out of it when I got there. She'd thrown off her helmet and gear, and when I saw her on the side of the temple, I knew she had hit her head. After the emergency room and seeing a doctor, she was much better. I shuddered thinking what would have happened if I didn't trust my gut and went home. I think there's 2 more. I've had problems with chronic migraines since high school. I had one on a day I was supposed to work a morning shift. Usually I would push through it and go to work anyways because I was used to it. Though that day I had a feeling I needed to stay home. I called out sick. A few hours after I would have left, a fire started in our basement. The only other person home was my stepbrother, who was asleep in the attic bedroom. He wouldn't have woken up until the fire had spread, likely destroying the house and definitely killing our dogs who were in their crates downstairs. We also learned the smoke alarms downstairs could barely be heard on the upper levels of the house. That, like, I just don't, like, how, like, that's crazy. Dude, the universe is like, you can't, like, you have to be there for the, like, what? Okay, I lied. I guess there's so many more. I thought there was 17. I don't know where I got that number from, but there's like 20. A family friend's husband often tells us the story about how his gut prepared him for the worst. It was early 1990s, and he was on the train during morning rush hour. As his train arrived at Victoria Station, a bad feeling crept over him. He and other passengers were walking through the station when suddenly a bomb went off. He instantly kneeled and covered his head with his briefcase. It was an IRA bombing, and dozens of the rush hour crowd were severely injured. His hands and the left side of his body are riddled with small scars from metal and glass fragments, and he has partial deafness due to the explosion rupturing one of his eardrums. He believes his injuries would have been a lot worse if his gut feeling didn't prepare him for something dreadful. Wait, this man like ducked down before the bomb went off, or did he go a separate way? Like, I'm a little confused, but thank God he's fine for the most part. My husband and I had just moved in with my grandma so he could start a new job while I searched for houses to buy. I was also 6 months pregnant. I had an OB appointment and my husband and I were going to make a day of it. He took off work so we could go out to eat, go to the appointment, and do some antique shopping. While we were at the antique shop, I suddenly got a nagging feeling that I needed to call my grandma. She didn't answer the phone. She was 90 at the time and didn't always have a phone with her on her walker, but I called my mom because I couldn't let it go. I told my mom that she needed to go and check on my grandma. She said she would call first since she was babysitting my 2-year-old niece, and that if grandma didn't answer, she would go check on her. My mom went out 20 minutes later and found my grandma on the floor of her dining room. She had collapsed due to a severe infection that led to sepsis. Like, what are... Oh my God. Okay, 19, and now I think there's 2 more. I was at work and stopped by a coworker's desk to say hi. She did not look good, but kept insisting she was fine. I absolutely didn't believe her and went to my manager and told her straight up that something was really wrong with her and she needed to go sit down. As a non-confrontational person, that wasn't like me at all, but my manager listened. Turned out my coworker was having a heart attack. Okay, apparently I lied again. I think there's 27, but this is the last one I'm gonna read. I can't even handle anymore. How many more like crazy things are going to happen? I think I got 27 and 17 mixed up. There was a 7 in there somewhere. We're gonna end it after this one. I was in my late teens and on my way to pick up my brother from his friend's house. I had to drive through a highway intersection and was stopped at the red light. I was in the middle lane in a Buick Regal with a big truck to the left of me in the left turn lane and nothing to my right. Since the opposite traffic didn't have anyone turning left, my lane turned green at the same time the left-hand turn for the truck did. Usually at lights, I give a quick traffic check and heavy-foot it out of the intersection. I looked right, then left, and only saw the big truck. I moved my foot to the gas pedal and started to step on it, then noticed the truck wasn't moving. So I stopped. Just then, a huge transport truck sped through the red light. I'm thankful I noticed the truck not moving and listened to the feeling and stopped. If I hadn't, I would have been dead. Dude, there's even more than 27. There's like 50. There's 34. Yeah, we're done. And if you guys want me to read more, I can, because we only got like halfway through. But that's all I'm gonna read for now. I hope you guys enjoyed. These are so scary to me. This is like worse than a ghost story, because it's like you would be dead if you had just not listened to your gut. I guess if you have any stories similar to this, I will have my subreddit link down below if you want to share any of it. This is too much. This is like a lot just happened. My camera's about to die, so I'm gonna go. I love you guys. I will see you in the next one. Bye.